Welcome to Chios, a thriving medieval trade hub in the Aegean. Here, wooden ships connect the world and carry the wealth of empires. As we explore, notice the details that bring this harbor to life. If you enjoy exploring the lost cities of history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications. Enjoy the journey.
The year is 1340 AD. You are standing on the sun-baked stone docks of Chios, an island rising like a jagged emerald out of the eastern Aegean Sea. The air is thick with the scent of salt water, sun-dried fishing nets, and the sharp pine-like aroma of raw mastic resin. To the untrained eye, this is just a beautiful, quiet island. But to you, this is the absolute center of a high-stakes geopolitical chessboard. You are a patrono, a merchant and ship owner from the most serene republic of Genoa. You belong to a maritime empire that does not conquer massive tracts of land, but instead conquers the ports, the straits, and the ledger books of the known world. You do not wear armor. You wear a tunic of fine, dark wool and carry a leather ledger bound with brass clasps. That book is your true weapon. Using AI trained on surviving medieval shipping manifests, the commercial contracts of the Genoese archives, and the intricate maritime history of the Mediterranean, we have completely rebuilt this lost era of maritime dominance. We are going to step onto the shifting decks of a merchant galley and navigate the incredibly complex, tense, and brilliant world of medieval trade. Imagine managing a crew of 100 men, navigating the fierce cultural divide of the Greek islands, and engaging in a relentless financial Cold War with your ultimate rivals, the Venetians. This is what life was actually like when the oceans were the only internet, and merchants were the ultimate masters of the world. 5 a.m. The sky over the Ion is a bruised, deep purple, and the massive Latine sails of your trading galley are furled tight against the heavy wooden yards. You wake up in your small, cramped cabin at the stern of the ship. There is no luxury here. The wooden planks are constantly damp, and the relentless rocking of the sea is a rhythm you have felt in your bones since you were a boy in the harbor of Genoa. You wash your face with fresh water drawn from a tightly sealed wooden barrel. You dress carefully, mindful of your status. You put on a crisp linen undershirt and a velvet doublet. In this era, clothing is an immediate, undeniable statement of your creditworthiness. A merchant who looks poor will never secure a profitable contract. You step out onto the deck. The harbor of Chios is a spectacular collision of worlds. The local architecture is distinctly Greek and Byzantine, with whitewashed stone houses and small, domed Orthodox churches clinging to the hillsides. But looming above the harbor are the imposing square stone towers built by your countrymen, the Genoese. The island technically belongs to the Byzantine emperor in Constantinople, but the reality is entirely different. The Genoese effectively control the economy here, and the locals tolerate it because the Italian ships bring immense, unparalleled wealth. By 7 a.m., you step off the ship and walk into the bustling harbor market. You are here for one specific, incredibly lucrative reason: mastic. Chios is the only place on the entire planet where the mastic tree produces a unique, crystal-clear resin. Throughout the Mediterranean and the Middle East, this resin is prized as a breath freshener, a rare medicine, and a crucial ingredient in high-end varnishes. It is literally worth its weight in silver. You meet with the local Greek archons, the leaders of the Masticoria, the mastic-producing villages in the south of the island. The cultural dance here is fascinating. The Greek landowners are deeply proud, speaking a rapid, melodic dialect of Greek and adhering to the Orthodox faith. You are a Latin Catholic, speaking the clipped, pragmatic Ligurian dialect of Genoa, but you communicate in the universal lingua franca of the sea, a functional, simplified mix of Italian, Greek, and Arabic, used by merchants across the Mediterranean. You do not simply hand them bags of coins. Medieval trade is far too sophisticated for that. You sit at a wooden table outside a tavern, sipping a small cup of strong, dark wine. You negotiate a 𝐒𝐭𝐞𝐸𝐈 contract. This is a revolutionary Genoese financial invention. You agree to provide the capital to purchase the next harvest of mastic, while the Greek merchants provide the labor and the goods. You outline the exact percentages of the profit split, detailing the risks of shipwreck or spoilage. A local notary writes the entire agreement down on a large sheet of parchment, detailing every single condition in precise Latin. You press your signet ring into a drop of warm red wax at the bottom of the page. You have just secured a monopoly on the next harvest, a move that will make your family in Genoa incredibly wealthy. By 10 a.m., the tranquil, purely commercial atmosphere of the port shifts dramatically. A deep, resonant horn echoes across the water from the southern headland. Sailing into the harbor, cutting through the azure water with terrifying speed and precision, is a massive Venetian great galley. The sleek black hull is propelled by rows of perfectly synchronized O's. Fluttering proudly from the main mast is the crimson flag bearing the golden lion of St. Mark. Venice, the most serene republic, they are your absolute, uncompromising rivals. The Genoese and the Venetians are locked in a relentless struggle to control the trade routes from the Black Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. The tension on the docks is palpable, thick enough to touch, as the Venetian galley drops its heavy iron anchors and ties off to the stone bollards. You stand your ground. There is no clash of swords here. Open conflict in a neutral port disrupts trade, and disruption is bad for business. Instead, the war is fought entirely through economics, posture, and intense psychological pressure. The Venetian captain, a wealthy patrician draped in fine red silk, steps onto the dock. You exchange a curt, incredibly polite, and utterly cold nod. You are both here to buy raw silk that has arrived from the overland routes of Asia, and you both know that whoever secures the cargo will control the prices in the markets of Europe. You walk to the customs house, a large stone building where the Byzantine harbor masters oversee the transactions. The Venetians brought crates of fine glass from Morirano and heavy woolen cloth from Flanders to trade. You brought massive ingots of raw alum, a chemical compound mined in Genoese-controlled territories that is absolutely essential for fixing dyes into cloth. Without your alum, the textile industry of Europe grinds to a halt. You leverage this monopoly. You offer the local brokers a slightly better exchange rate for their silk, using your alum as the ultimate bargaining chip. You watch the subtle, frustrated tightening of the Venetian captain's jaw as he realizes he has been outmaneuvered in the ledger book. It is a profound, silent victory, far more satisfying than any physical confrontation. By 1 p.m., the midday heat of the Aegean becomes a crushing physical weight. The fierce sun beats down on the white stones of the port, and the frantic pace of the docks slows to a crawl. It is time for the midday meal and the necessary respite from the heat. You retreat to a local Greek tavera, set slightly back from the harbor, shaded by a massive ancient grape trellis. The fusion of the Mediterranean world is perfectly represented on your table. You are served a large, simple earthen bowl of incredibly fresh octopus, grilled over an open charcoal fire and drizzled with thick green olive oil and squeezed lemon. Beside it sits a wedge of sharp, salty sheep's cheese and a loaf of dense, dark barley bread. You share the table with your ship's sailing master and a local Greek navigator. The conversation is not about politics or empires. It is entirely about the sea. The Mediterranean is a fickle, unforgiving mistress. The Greek navigator shares local knowledge about the prevailing Maltese winds, the strong, dry north winds that sweep across the Aegean during the summer months. You listen intently. In an age before satellite weather tracking, local knowledge is the absolute difference between a wildly successful voyage and losing your ship against a hidden limestone reef. You dip your bread into the olive oil, washing it down with a cup of sweet, golden Malvasia wine, a famous vintage exported from the nearby islands. It is a moment of pure, profound connection across cultural lines, united by a shared respect for the terrifying power of the ocean. By 3 p.m., the heat begins to break, and the arduous, highly technical work of maritime logistics resumes. You walk back to your galley. Your crew is hard at work, loading the newly purchased bales of silk and barrels of mastic. The operation of a 14th century merchant galley is a marvel of medieval engineering and synchronized labor. You watch as your sailors, men with skin baked to the color of old leather by the sun and salt, expertly manipulate the rigging. The ship features 2 massive triangular lateen sails. These sails are incredibly efficient for sailing close to the wind, but they require immense physical strength and precise coordination to shift from one side of the mast to the other when changing direction. You climb up to the quarterdeck and enter your small navigational space. You pull out a Porterland chart. This is a closely guarded, highly valuable piece of technology. It is a map drawn on smooth sheepskin, covered in a complex intersecting web of straight lines known as rumble lines, mapping the exact compass bearings between every major port, cape, and island in the Mediterranean. Next to the chart sits your most prized possession, a magnetic compass. The Italians have recently perfected this instrument, mounting the magnetized needle on a pivot inside a glass-cored wooden box. You use a pair of brass dividers to measure the distance from Chios to your next destination, the great port of Pera, the Genoese colony, sitting directly across the Golden Horn from Constantinople. You calculate the required provisions, the expected speed of the ship based on the current wind patterns, and the precise daily wages of your crew. You are not just a sailor, you are a floating accountant, managing a complex, highly leveraged corporation on the waves. By 6 p.m., the intense loading process is complete. The heavy wooden cargo hatches are sealed shut and battened down with thick canvas and tar to protect the precious goods from the salt water. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, turning the sky into a brilliant, sweeping canvas of orange and fiery red. The harbor of Chios begins to transform. The intense, shouting commercial activity of the day fades, replaced by the softer, communal sounds of the evening. Sailors from your ship mingle with the crews of other vessels on the stone docks. Despite the fierce economic rivalry, there is a distinct, deeply ingrained fraternity of the sea. You see Genoese sailors sharing dried figs and playing dice games with local Greek fishermen. Even a few off-duty Venetian sailors are sitting nearby, the intense political rivalry temporarily suspended in the fading light. You walk along the waterfront, feeling the cool, refreshing evening breeze sweeping down from the island's mountainous interior. You hear the rhythmic, melodic strumming of a lute from a nearby tavern, blending perfectly with the gentle, rhythmic lapping of the waves against the wooden hulls of the ships. It is a moment of profound, breathtaking tranquility. You look out over the vast, darkening expanse of the Iron Sea. You know that beyond the horizon lies a world of unpredictable storms, shifting political alliances, and immense financial risk. But standing here, breathing in the scent of salt and pine, the allure of the maritime world is absolute and undeniable. By 8 p.m., you return to the quiet sanctuary of your ship's cabin. The only light comes from a single, thick beeswax candle, flickering in a polished brass lantern, swaying gently with the movement of the water. It is time for the most important ritual of your day. You open your heavy leather ledger. The Genoese are pioneers of a revolutionary new system of accounting, double-entry bookkeeping. Every single transaction, no matter how small, is recorded twice, once as a debit and once as a credit. It is an incredibly precise, unforgiving system that leaves no room for error or missing funds. You dip a finely cut goose quill pen into an inkwell and carefully record the day's massive purchases. You write down the exact weight of the mastic, the precise exchange rate of the Byzantine coins, and the exact cost of the port taxes. Your handwriting is perfectly neat, elegant, and entirely pragmatic. In this book lies the entire future of your family back in Genoa. A single mathematical error or a single misjudged investment could mean complete financial ruin. The pressure is immense, a silent, invisible weight that you carry on your shoulders across every mile of the sea. You close the ledger, the heavy brass clasps clicking shut with a satisfying, definitive sound. You carefully wrap the book in a piece of oiled leather to protect it from the damp sea air, and lock it inside a heavy iron-bound oak chest at the foot of your bed. By 10 p.m., the harbor of Chios is completely quiet. The stars above the Aegean are blindingly bright, scattered across the absolute blackness of the night sky like spilled salt. You step out onto the deck one last time. The only sound is the creaking of the ship's massive wooden timbers and the soft, rhythmic breathing of your crew sleeping on the forward decks. You look toward the east, toward the invisible coastline of Asia Minor. You are a single man on a wooden ship, but you are a crucial, indispensable thread in a massive, invisible web that spans the globe. The silk in your cargo hold was spun by artisans in the distant valleys of China. The spices were harvested on the tropical coasts of India, and in a few months, those exact same goods will be sold in the bustling markets of Paris, London, and Bruges. The empires of the world, the Byzantines, the Mongols, the Holy Roman Emperor, believe they control the earth through their armies and their towering stone castles. But as you stand under the stars, feeling the gentle, relentless movement of the ocean beneath your feet, you know the absolute truth. The world is not held together by kings or swords. It is stitched together by the merchants, by the quiet turning of the ledger pages, by the meticulous, terrifying calculation of risk, and by the brave, relentless men who dare to sail across the divided seas. That was 24 hours in the medieval Aegean. It was not just a world of isolated islands and ancient ruins. It was a vibrant, interconnected network of incredibly sophisticated finance, complex cultural negotiation, and absolute maritime mastery. The great galleys of Genoa and Venice eventually faded into history, replaced by larger galleons and new oceans to conquer. But the incredibly precise ledgers they wrote, the maritime laws they forged, and the interconnected global economy they envisioned laid the absolute foundation for the modern world we live in today. Every time we track a shipment across the globe or marvel at the complexity of international trade, we are witnessing the enduring legacy of the merchant republics. A world built not by kings, but by calculation, discipline, and risk. Step into the past and understand the world you live in today. Welcome to Step into History. If you want to explore more hidden stories of the past, hit subscribe and tell us which civilization we should bring to life next. Chios may have faded from power, but its legacy still moves silently through every trade route, every ledger, and every decision that shapes our modern world.